This father manages his 7 children with military precision every day. As soon as they hear the whistle, the well-trained children immediately assemble, then march downstairs in step and line up. If anyone falls out of step, they must step forward to receive punishment. Watching such an unfeeling family, the trusted family tutor widened his eyes in surprise. But before he could recover from the shock, the children followed the whistle and lined up from oldest to youngest to introduce themselves. It was then that Maria learned the oldest was only 16 and the youngest was just 5. As she found all this unbelievable, the man beside her handed her the whistle and told her she must use it to summon the children instead of calling their names. After saying this, he prepared to control Maria in the same way. But Maria firmly refused to agree, as she felt it was humiliating to people. As the renowned Navy Captain Trapp, he had never been defied like this, but he did not get angry. Instead, after mocking Maria, he simply walked towards the exit. However, he was stopped by the whistle again. Immediately, Maria teased, saying, "I still don't know how to call you." Since it was the first time the strict father had left, after he left, the children unconsciously relaxed. Maria dared to act this way because she was originally a nun in a convent, who loved to run to the mountains to sing loudly by herself. This often made her late or miss prayers, causing the other nuns to have mixed feelings about her love of freedom, and even the abbess didn't know what to do with her. Coincidentally, the abbess heard that the captain needed a family tutor, so she sent Maria here. However, what Maria never expected was that not only was the captain cold and ruthless, but the children were not as obedient as they seemed. They were extremely resistant to tutors, having already driven away one teacher. Some teachers were so scared they fled within 5 minutes. Initially, Maria didn't realize the seriousness of the situation until a toad was slipped into her pocket. However, the maid told her she was lucky because the previous teacher's welcome gift was a snake. She thought the test was over. Unexpectedly, during dinner, Maria sat down on the chair with the pinecone again, and as she cried out in pain, the children immediately showed triumphant smiles. Then, they hoped this new teacher would voluntarily resign to their father, so he would have to spend more time personally guiding and accompanying them. However, Maria not only didn't plan to give up, but she also sincerely thanked them for their steadfastness. Perhaps because they had never felt such acceptance, the 5th child suddenly cried with guilt, and soon after, the other children also began to shed tears. When the confused colonel asked what was going on, Maria simply said that the children were overwhelmed with happiness. Just as the dinner atmosphere was tense, the butler delivered a telegram. The Baroness invited the colonel to Vienna. Upon learning their father was leaving again, the children showed sadness and discontent. Only the eldest daughter, unnoticed, slipped outside like an excited fawn. It turned out she had secretly fallen in love with the boy who delivered the telegram. But due to their vastly different social statuses, it was difficult for them to be openly together, so they could only occasionally meet secretly at night like this. Like all couples in love, they seemed to have endless sweet nothings to share. But neither wanted to overstep boundaries, as they both respected each other greatly. Suddenly, with thunder and lightning, it began to rain, so they had to hide in the glass pavilion to continue their whispered promises. Meanwhile, the maid delivered new fabric to Maria's room, reminding her to quickly make some new clothes. Because the colonel couldn't stand the ugly outfit she wore, which even the poor wouldn't want. Additionally, the maid told Maria not to sing at home, not even to laugh out loud. Since the mistress passed away, the colonel had become very stern and was much stricter with the children. Moreover, to avoid any emotional reminders, he strictly prohibited anything that would remind him of his wife. In fact, to completely forget his late wife, he intended to marry the Baroness, who had also lost her partner. This invitation to Vienna was to discuss the marriage arrangements. Maria felt deep sympathy for the 7 children, but she also believed that God had sent her here to help them better accept their new mother and rediscover the warmth of family. So, she began to pray devoutly. Just then, the eldest daughter, who had just returned from a date, suddenly climbed over the balcony and broke in. But upon seeing Maria, she worried about being reported by her, so she asked Maria to help keep it a secret. Little did she know, Maria was already lenient with the children, and seeing her drenched from the rain only triggered a silent sympathy within her. Not only did she promise not to betray her, but she also considerately took out clean clothes for her to change into in the bathroom, ensuring that no one else would notice anything amiss. People's hearts are made of flesh, and especially for children who have lost their mother, even a little affection can bring immense happiness. So, after feeling Maria's kindness, the eldest daughter genuinely accepted this new teacher. While she was changing clothes, the youngest daughter suddenly pushed the door open and rushed into Maria's arms. Not only that, but with a loud clap of thunder, the other 3 girls also rushed in fearfully, followed by the 2 boys who appeared with terrified faces. Looking at the 6 frightened children, Maria let them hide under her covers and told them that whenever she felt scared, she would think of beautiful things like water, fresh flowers, green meadows, a starry sky, and dew on rose petals. This would help ease the tension. With her guidance, the children soon forgot the thunder outside and were all immersed in imagining beautiful things. However, just as they were happily playing, the captain walked in with a stern face. Seeing her about to scold them, Maria quickly pointed the children away. Afterward, Maria pleaded with the captain to give her more fabric because she wanted to make clothes for the children to wear when they went out to play. As a result, she was flatly refused. Fortunately, Maria had another plan. She remembered the maid saying earlier that the curtains in the room would be replaced the next day. So, she permanently used the curtains to make new clothes for each of the 7 children. After the captain left the house, she took the children to the countryside to play. The warm sunlight shone on every corner, and the breeze carried the scent of grass. They cheered and skipped along the riverside path, arriving at a green field full of white flowers. Knowing her mission was to help the children get along with their new mother whom they hadn't met yet, Maria, who loved singing, decided to teach the children to sing during their picnic on the grass. Once they learned, they could use their singing to welcome the Baroness. However, the children said that because their father didn't allow them to sing, they didn't understand music at all. So Maria had to start teaching them from the very basic 7 notes. Fortunately, the children were very smart, and before long, they were able to combine the notes into beautiful melodies. Not long after, the captain returned with the Baroness. But just as the two were strolling by the picturesque lakeside, chatting about feelings and life, they suddenly noticed the children singing and rowing a boat towards them. Seeing their father, the children excitedly stood up. Unexpectedly, in the next second, they all fell into the water due to losing their balance. Luckily, the lake was shallow, and they climbed ashore without any danger. Watching the children still laughing and playing after falling into the water, the already angry captain became even more furious. But since the Baroness was present, she had to suppress her anger and ordered the children to go change their clothes. However, when Maria was about to leave, the captain suddenly called her back. Seeing this, the Baroness tactfully found an excuse to leave. Without any reservations, the captain vented all his dissatisfaction on Maria. He accused Maria of taking the children out to play and of dressing them in coarse clothes. But Maria retorted that the children didn't care about dressing well. They just wanted to be cared for and loved, especially wanting affection from you as their father. But you never paid attention to them, so they resorted to teasing the governess to get a little bit of your attention. Although every word was true, the captain, instead of reflecting on himself, decided to fire Maria. Just as Maria was too aggrieved to speak, melodious singing suddenly came from the room. When the captain followed the music, he found that the children were singing to welcome the Baroness. This was the first time since his wife's death that the room was filled with singing. All the beautiful memories instantly flooded the captain's mind. Unconsciously, as if under a spell, she joined the children's chorus. When her deep, resonant voice blended with the children's clear, bright singing, the children hugged her tightly. At this moment, Maria, who had been hiding behind the door, saw the youngest daughter present the Baroness with a bouquet of edelweiss. As Maria turned to leave, the captain immediately chased after her and sincerely apologized for his earlier words. "I really don't understand my children, as you said. I asked you to stay," and Maria gladly agreed. From then on, the big house was no longer filled with annoying whistles, but with laughter and increasingly rich music programs. That day, after Maria and the children finished performing a puppet show, a friend of the captain, who was thoroughly impressed, suggested that the children participate in the folk festival competition, saying they would surely become an instant hit. But the captain refused to agree, as she believed the children should not be in the limelight. To ease the awkward atmosphere, Maria intended to sing another song, but the children told her to let the captain perform. Initially, the captain politely declined, but under Maria and the children's persistent urging, she picked up the guitar and sang Edelweiss, a song that praises the small, white, clean, and bright national flower of Austria. The song expresses the Austrian people's love and blessings for their homeland through the praise of the Edelweiss. As the moving song continued to linger in the air, the deeply touched children joined in harmony. The Baroness was attracted by the gentle side of the tough captain, but she didn't expect that the captain's gentle gaze was always directed at Maria in the corner. Sensing a crisis, she asked the captain to hold a ball for her, so she could declare her sovereignty in front of everyone. The captain gladly accepted the proposal. Soon, the ball was held as scheduled, and social elites, aristocrats, and military figures all attended to honor the captain. After lengthy pleasantries, the dignitaries began to dance to the music. Since it was an Austrian folk dance, almost every Austrian was familiar with it and knew the dance steps. However, the children found it unfamiliar, so they asked Maria to show them. At that moment, the captain also stepped out, and seeing the awkward dance between the big and the small, she stepped forward to replace the child. At first, they were both just immersed in the dance, but as their bodies touched and their eyes met, they developed unusual feelings for each other. More awkwardly, this scene was witnessed by the Baroness. Maria, blushing to her neck, quickly found an excuse to escape awkwardly, but soon returned to the hall because she had to lead the children in a performance for the guests. After the performance was successfully completed and the children exited the stage, the captain's friend suddenly stopped Maria, who was about to leave, and invited her to stay for the dinner. Due to the warm invitation, Maria had no choice but to go upstairs and change into an appropriate dress for the occasion. Unexpectedly, the Baroness followed her. Through her observations over the past few days, the Baroness was certain that the captain had fallen for Maria, and Maria had developed feelings for the captain as well. To eliminate this rival, she exposed the feelings Maria dared not admit, leaving Maria utterly shocked. As a nun, she was not supposed to have romantic feelings. Previously, she could deceive herself, but now, being exposed in public, she had no choice but to leave. This was exactly the Baroness's intention. Thus, Maria changed back into her original clothes, left a letter, and quietly departed. The Baroness thought that without Maria's presence, she could completely win over the captain and the children's hearts. However, she didn't realize that in any relationship, the most important thing is to give your true heart, not to eliminate the competition. So, even though Maria had been gone for many days, she still hadn't gained the children's approval. Not only that, the children often mentioned Maria and even asked the captain several times if Maria would return. The captain said she would not return. From now on, you will no longer need a governess because I am going to marry the Baroness. From now on, this new mother will take care of you. Although they were unwilling to accept it, the children politely kissed the Baroness. Afterward, they went to the convent gate with sadness, hoping to see Maria one more time, but the nuns said Maria was in seclusion and not seeing any visitors at the moment. Helpless, the children left disappointed. Since returning to the convent, Maria had indeed locked herself in her room, completely losing her previous cheerfulness. The Mother Superior felt that this couldn't continue, so she took the initiative to talk to Maria. After learning the whole story, the Mother Superior said that avoiding the problem was not a solution. If you're not sure whether you've truly fallen in love with the captain, then go back and continue to find the answer. Staying here without clarity is disrespectful to the convent and irresponsible to yourself. Because the convent does not accept those who are attached to the secular world, and you have the right to live the life you truly want. Meanwhile, back home, the children, feeling down, began to sing the song that always lifted their spirits. But the more they sang, the more they missed Maria, because the song was filled with memories of her. However, just as they were becoming more and more despondent, Maria suddenly returned with her suitcase. It turned out she finally took the dean's advice and decided to seek the life her heart truly desired. However, this willingness was shattered when she heard that the captain was about to marry the Baroness. But she didn't leave immediately. Instead, she planned to settle the children first before making any decisions. In the evening, under the bright moonlight and the crisp sound of frogs, a confused Maria wandered alone at the door. Meanwhile, the captain stood on the balcony, gazing intently. Suddenly, the Baroness came out. Upon seeing Maria not far away, she immediately realized that she had already lost in this love triangle. Yet, unwilling to give up, she still wanted to fight for it. So, she relied on her strong financial power, hoping to win back the captain's heart. But the captain never wanted marriage to be a transaction. Moreover, in her view, money couldn't compare to true love. After all, she already possessed immeasurable wealth. Hearing this, the Baroness was completely relieved. But to preserve her last bit of dignity, she was the first to propose a breakup. Actually, you're not suitable to be my marriage partner because I need someone to depend on, but you clearly don't need me, not even my money. So, we might as well part ways here. Tomorrow, I will return to Vienna. I wish you and your beloved can be together. After saying this, she turned and left. Meanwhile, Maria, full of thoughts, was sitting on a bench shrouded in the night, lost in thought. Until the captain cautiously approached and said, I have already broken off the engagement with the Baroness because I can't marry one person while loving another. Although his words were very subtle, Maria immediately understood the meaning. However, before she could recover from her surprise, the captain tenderly kissed her forehead. At this moment, the bright moonlight poured down, capturing their love as an eternal silhouette. Not long after, they completed their wedding in the monastery, blessed by the nuns. However, their happy days had just begun when they were forced to face bad news. At that time, on the eve of World War II, Austria was annexed by German forces. Nazi flags were hung everywhere. When the captain returned from his honeymoon and found his doorstep also occupied, he tore down and destroyed the flag without hesitation. Because in his heart, Austria was always an independent nation, neither disappeared nor a Nazi appendage. However, not everyone felt the same way. Even when faced with the powerful Japo, he still refused to yield. In contrast, more people willingly became traitors to survive or gain power. For example, the telegraph boy who once dated the eldest daughter has now become an emotionless war machine. When he handed the telegraph to the eldest daughter again, it was no longer with the gentle affection of before, but rather filled with coldness and detachment. Although there was no explicit breakup, the eldest daughter knew in her heart that the relationship had come to an end. After passing the telegraph to the colonel, she sought out Maria for a heart-to-heart talk. Since it was her first love, she didn't know how to overcome the pain of heartbreak. Maria comforted her, saying that if she felt really bad, she could have a good cry, but after crying, she should forget everything and face the next day with a positive and optimistic attitude. You must understand, your life is just beginning. Your understanding of the world and human nature is still being refreshed and reshaped. One day, you will meet someone who truly understands and loves you. Then, you will marry, have children, and live a happy and fulfilling life together. But just as the two were envisioning a bright future, the colonel suddenly came over and interrupted. It turned out that the telegraph explicitly required the colonel to take a position at a naval base in Germany. If she refused, her family would be torn apart. If she accepted, her beliefs would collapse. Clearly, either choice was a disaster for the colonel. Helpless, she could only flee with her family overnight, but unexpectedly, the butler had already betrayed them. So before they could leave the house, the Nazis, who had been notified in advance, blocked the door. They thought they were doomed, but fortunately, the colonel had a sudden idea. He remembered that a friend had signed them up for a choir competition, and the performance was scheduled for that very night. Initially, when he first heard the news, the colonel was adamant about not participating. Little did he know, this event he disliked would become his lifeline. Thus, under the watchful eyes of the Nazi soldiers, the colonel led his family to the competition venue and successfully completed the choir performance. However, when the colonel saw his fellow countrymen in the audience, who showed no sorrow for their occupied country and only wanted to continue their leisurely lives, he couldn't help but sing a solo of Blood and Tears, trying to stir up patriotism in their hearts. Sure enough, when he sang with such emotion that he choked up and couldn't continue, everyone in the audience joined in singing. Not only that, upon learning that the captain was about to be forced to join the German Navy, the host deliberately elongated his tone when announcing the award list. When the second and third place winners went on stage to receive their awards, they tacitly spoke a few more words, just to buy more time for the captain's family, who won first place, to escape. Initially, the Nazi leader in charge of surveillance didn't notice anything unusual until his subordinate hurriedly reported that the captain's entire family was missing. He then quickly led his men to the monastery. Although the captain and his family were indeed hiding there, with the help of the nuns, they were fortunately not discovered. After confirming that the search team had left, the captain cautiously emerged from behind the stone wall. Unexpectedly, the telegraph boy who had joined the Nazis suddenly returned and caught him red-handed. It turned out that just moments ago, the eldest daughter saw the telegraph boy's face and, in disbelief, let out a gasp. Although the sound was faint, it still aroused suspicion. So, after his companions left, the telegraph boy quietly hid in the shadows, lying in wait. Unexpectedly, he indeed caught his prey. Previously, the boy had affectionately told the eldest daughter that he would protect her and not let her get hurt, but now he had become the perpetrator. Seeing this, the captain immediately gestured for Maria to take the children and leave first. Since the Nazis' target was the captain, the boy did not stop them. After the family had all left, the captain walked towards the boy, patiently saying, "I know you won't shoot me. You're still just a child, you don't belong with them. Why not leave with us?" Initially, the boy seemed to understand, so he neither fired nor struggled when the captain took his gun. But when the captain firmly said, "You can never be one of them," the boy, feeling insecure and sensitive, thought it was a taunt and immediately cried out for help. Fortunately, the captain's car was nearby, and soon he drove away with his family into the darkness. When the Nazi soldiers prepared to drive after them, they found that the car wouldn't start. It turned out that just a minute earlier, the nuns had removed all the essential parts of the car. In this way, the captain's family successfully escaped the threat. However, due to the border being closed, they had to trek over the mountains on foot to seek a new life in a foreign land. Starring Julie Andrews and Christopher Plummer, this romantic film was released in 1965. It is based on true events, with Maria's character inspired by Maria Augusta Kutskera. She was born in 1905 and became a nun in Vienna, Austria. In 1926, she was sent by the convent to Salzburg to be the governess for the second daughter of the von Trapp family. This marked the beginning of her encounter with Captain Georg von Trapp. In reality, Georg von Trapp was a legendary figure. He was not only the Austro-Hungarian Empire's most outstanding submarine commander but also an enviable nobleman. During World War I, he commanded submarines to sink numerous enemy ships, earning the Maria Theresa Military Order and becoming a hero of the Austrian Navy. After his first wife Agatha Whitehead passed away, he married Maria in 1927, and together they raised 10 children. 2 of these children were born after their marriage. In 1929, the Great Depression swept the globe, drastically reducing the von Trapp family's wealth and plunging them into financial hardship. Maria suggested forming a choir to utilize the family's singing talents to make a living. By 1930, the von Trapp family choir quickly rose to fame in Austria. They became the most popular performing group, touring Europe and even performing for the Pope. Their music not only sustained the family but also became a symbol of Austrian national spirit. In 1938, Germany annexed Austria. The captain openly opposed the Nazis, putting the entire family at risk of persecution. To save their lives, they participated in a music festival, and miraculously, they trekked over mountains from a small town on the Italian border, enduring hunger and danger, to reach the United States. In America, they started from scratch, founding the Trapp Family Lodge and continuing to make a living through music. During World War II, they also established the Trapp Family Austrian Relief Company to aid their war-torn homeland. Moreover, influenced by their father's patriotism, the sons all eagerly joined the military and bravely participated in the anti-fascist war. When Maria was 42, the captain passed away. Until she closed her eyes, she retained her Austrian citizenship. 2 years after the captain's death, Maria wrote an autobiography about her life with him and published it. It quickly became a bestseller, touching and inspiring countless people. Later, after several adaptations, it became the classic film, The Sound of Music. Before meeting the captain, Maria always thought her life's pursuit was to become a nun. Little did she know, her direction was wrong from the start, making her always seem out of place in the convent. It wasn't until the Mother Superior gave her guidance that she found the right direction in life. In fact, many people, like Maria, are stuck in their own cognitive traps, unable to break free. Even when they feel the pain, they choose to endure it repeatedly instead of reflecting, learning, and innovating, which may lead to a life of torment. In contrast, the Baroness is very adept at assessing the situation. She will use any means necessary to achieve her goals. But when the results don't go her way, she doesn't care about sunk costs and instead decisively pulls back to cut her losses. Indeed, in life, one must have persistence. You can't just go with the flow like a drifter. You must hold on to your inner beliefs and principles. This way, life becomes more meaningful. Just like the captain, who always holds on to his patriotism, this steadfastness gives him greater courage to face and solve all difficulties and challenges. Love a person, climb a mountain, follow a path, cross a stream. Every day of your life, feel with your heart. Throughout your lifetime, you will eventually find your own life. Alright, that's all for today's movie sharing. Please like, comment, and share. Looking forward to our next meeting.